So welcome to our study of Treasury of Precious Qualities. And we'll begin with invoking the principle of wisdom as embodied in the Bodhisattva Manjushri. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. So, okay. So we're presently in the 9th chapter, where upon having taken the Bodhisattva vow, we're now looking at what taking the Bodhisattva vow involves. And that's particularly where we're looking at the two aspects of what we call the bodhicitta of aspiration and the bodhicitta of application. So as we're looking at these, then we're looking at the bodhicitta of aspiration, where we're talking about how to effectively develop bodhicitta. And that's where we're looking at 4 aspects. And the first that we've come, we're in the second section of that. The first is actually directly Tonglen practice, which I think most of us are familiar with and which we've covered. And now we're in the second part, which are 7 steps to develop bodhicitta. And so these include then, as we've looked at these, the ways of seeing sentient beings, the way that we're connected with them. So there's very much this sense of sentient beings are us. It's interesting in the modern world. There's a way that the dependent origination, or what is sometimes referred to as interdependent origination, has been sort of adapted to fit the modern sort of way of approaching, you could say, a compassionate outlook. And that's where, rather than understanding dependent origination as it's normally is understood, in terms of simply just meaning that whatever appears exists on the basis of causes and conditions. And that then means implying at the relative level how our experience evolves in terms of the 12 links of dependent origination. And also in terms of absolute truth, dependent origination implies that since everything is conditioned, dependent, it doesn't possess inherent existence. So that's where you could say the traditional way of dependent origination has a little bit sort of been sidelined by the term interdependent or even interconnection. And that's where it's become a way of thinking, we're all connected. You know, I'm sitting here with my computer, and that was put together in a factory where various workers were involved, and these workers are again involved with other people. And this way, there's always this sort of extension of ways that we are connected to other people. So that's unique really to the modern take on Buddhism. And it's curious how this has originated. And that's where this could be because many people can't accept the notion of rebirth. And people are sort of stick with this idea that we're nothing more than a brain. And as such, the only way we could be connected to others is this way that I was just explaining. But the traditional way of understanding our connection to others is really on a very, you could say, grounded, ordinary level, simply just that we've all looked out for each other. We've all been each other's parents. We've all looked after each other. And that's where others matter. And that's where then we speak about all sentient beings as having been one's mother. And this really just for us to accept this in a serious manner, not just as, that's a nice thought. For us to really take this as a serious consideration, we actually need to embrace the idea of rebirth. We need to see the absurdity of believing that consciousness would just be a product of non-conscious biological systems. And of course, that's you could say understandable in a science that only is concerned with the material. But if we understand that science as knowledge necessarily needs to embrace a dimension of experience, then we can actually see the primacy of consciousness, the primacy of experience, and our construction of solidity is something that originates from the side of the subject that perceives. It's the subject that perceives things as solid. If we go out and observe the objective world, so to speak, it's not solid. And that's, of course, also where you could say present-day physics can be quite helpful. But it's when we begin to understand the primacy of consciousness, of experience, then yes, then we begin to understand how we re-embody ourselves from day to day, from moment to moment, and from lifetime to lifetime. And that's where then, looking at what we can see around us, we can infer that yes, anybody who's born necessarily, particularly as a human, has had a parent. And that's where among parents, then generally, of course, it's not always the case, but very often, mostly, it's the mother that's the primary caregiver. Not to forget, it's the mother that actually, as it's said in the Buddhist scriptures, it's the mother that goes halfway to death to give birth to someone. Of course, in our culture, it's perhaps not that dangerous to give birth, but it's a big deal to give birth. It's a tremendous, tremendous sacrifice in the sense of just being very difficult. And at the same time, mothers, despite that, actually generally care unstintingly with for their young. So that's the reflection. And of course, last time we covered some of the challenges for the modern person in this regard. But anyway, we are looking at presently this perspective that others have been one's mother. And we've looked at recognizing that all beings have been one's mother, reflecting on their kindness, and then we're presently looking at the next three, I think it is, to have a sense of gratitude, to generate feelings of warmth, and to have tender compassion. And so that's where in the root text here, then, it says, 15, we should now recall that all beings without end, when they became our mothers, helped and showed us perfect kindness. If we remember this, our love, compassion, joy, and equanimity will grow. All those who know that beings have been kind, who feel great gratitude to them, will be endowed with the sublime riches. So that's through the recollection of sentient beings, kindness. That's where then love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the four boundless attitudes, they grow and also will be endowed with what we call the seven riches of the bodhisattvas. We'll look at now Kangyur Rinpoche's commentary on this. So Kangyur Rinpoche comments, thus we should reflect that all sentient beings, without exception, have been our mothers many times. They have helped us and shown us intense kindness in ways that no other person would. Reflecting on this again and again, we should acknowledge the fact that every single being we meet has been kind to us. And also last time we talked about this, I mentioned this fact that what we in the modern day refer to as the gentle childbirth, something that emerged in the 1970s, particularly associated with somebody called Frédéric Leboyer, is very much, Frédéric Leboyer was a student of Kangyur Rinpoche, the author here. And it's from Kangyur Rinpoche that Frédéric Leboyer developed this awareness around the experience of a child being born, and hence also how to care for it according to how one would care for a newborn in a Tibetan context, and certainly at the advice of Kangyur Rinpoche, the way he would and his family. Kangyur Rinpoche having had 7 children, and 6 of which proceeded now to be with us. There's still 5 that are with us. And so Kangyur Rinpoche had a great deal of experience with this, and hence advised Leboyer in terms of what would be a kind way of giving, of parents handling the newborn. So that's where, again, this comes back to the kindness that parents have shown to us. So the point here being then, we should have a sense of gratitude. Kangyur Rinpoche writes, we should therefore endeavor to help others in every way we can, thinking constantly of how we might be of service to them in order to repay the great goodness they have shown to us. So this gratitude brings along this sense of wishing to repay. So that's the attitude. That's actually the people who we meet on the people that we meet on the street. They're actually not strangers to us. At one point, they have done a lot for us. We are encouraged to generate gratitude and also the wish to then repay their kindness. Yeah. Let's see if there's a comment here. Wow, please note that the Zoom link is not responding. I got this link through clicking on the Vajra Wisdom link. Oh. Oh my God, you're right. Thank you. Can you please, yeah, I'm going to, sorry, this is very embarrassing. I'm going to be logging out and I'll log into that explains it. I'll be logging into the Treasury of Precious Qualities. My fault, I apologize. Okay. You guys who are here, please use the Treasury of Precious Quality link. I'm going to copy it right now, put it in the chat, and then I'll see you over there. See here.
So we come out and then we come in again.
Yeah, you come in again with the Treasury of Precious Qualities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you for, I couldn't understand why we were so few today.
Well, I was so happy I found you in Vajra Wisdom.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay, see you in a second.
Yeah.
See you in a second.